Live from the Motor City, all the way to the Volunteer State. It's time for the Reckless Speculation Podcast, where we recklessly speculate the latest news in the world of sports. From college football to NASCAR, we've got you covered. And don't forget to stick around for the world-famous Bet Your Nuts, where we will give you your best bets to make the most money. Now sit back, grab your favorite drink of choice, and join Robbie Davis, Raj Mehta, Brandon Chain, and Tom Sloan. It's showtime. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the scaled-down version of the Reckless Speculation Podcast. As you can see, the only one on the screen besides myself is the one and only Robbie Davis. Welcome back, Robbie.
Hey, glad to be back. I've had a 2-week hiatus with I was on vacation 1 week and then had some personal stuff that I had to deal with, and so it's glad to be back and glad to be talking sports instead of what I've been dealing with. But yeah, so glad to be back.
Yeah, I'm sure this is a good break from what you had to go through. As you can see, it's just the two of us. Raj is enjoying a little family time in lovely Southern California, where he unfortunately witnessed Arizona take care of business out there in LA. He was at the games with his son, which I'm sure that was a good experience. And Brandon is enjoying some bourbon with his wife on the old Kentucky Bourbon Trail. So hopefully both of those guys are having a good time, and we look forward to having them back with us next week. But as far as tonight goes, we're going to squeeze in one show. Normally we do two throughout the week, but since it's just Robbie and I, we're going to do one. And we're going to combine both of them into one with a little extra pizzazz. So we're going to obviously talk college football. We're going to give our game balls and our fumbles. I'm going to give our top 5 rankings, as well as the NFL. We're going to go over some of the top headlines from last week, and as well give game balls and fumbles for that in our power rankings in the NFL. And MLB Postseason is into the Divisional round, so we're going to briefly hit on that a little bit. What a crazy game last night down in Atlanta between the Braves and Phillies. I know Robbie's excited to talk about that one. And for all you puckheads, tonight's opening night in the NHL with the Nashville Predators and Tampa underway right now. That game's just about over with. It started at 5:30. Real strange, but we'll hit on that. We'll preview our Predators and my Detroit Red Wings, even though you can't see the logo, but the wing wheel is there, I assure you. But before we get this train on the track, we're drinking Jack. Hey, that rhymed.
Hey, look at you. You've been practicing that.
Reckless Speculation, as always, brought to you by Jack Single Barrel. My friend, I should probably have some in my cup the week I've had and the week you've had. I'm sure it will help things out immensely. And
I do have some in my cup, so
yep. You also have a dead deer head above your right shoulder, which is very interesting. And we do want to thank our sponsors, as always, Davis, Keller, and Davis, the one, the only Robbie Davis, as pictured there on the left, right next to Toonces, the driving cat, who is hopefully he was paroled after driving the car off the cliff.
Yeah.
And the aforementioned Brandon Chain, C&W Construction. I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. These pictures are all we need to say. It's amazing work. If you need any sort of home improvement in the greater Nashville area, give them a call, C&W Construction. Go like them on Facebook as well. So,
you know what? That's the first time I've ever paid attention to those photos. That is good work. Props to Brandon. That is good work.
It's like an island oasis in your backyard. I couldn't imagine. I would never leave the house if that was my backyard. There's no way, because you've got You've got the outdoor kitchen. You got the TV out there. You got the jacuzzi and oh man, I'm telling you, unbelievable work. C&W Construction. So,
And just to let people know, I did not kill this deer behind me. There's a couple of them. I am at our lake cabin for the evening, and I assume my grandfather or somebody may have killed them. I did not, but
I thought maybe you purchased them at home or TJ Maxx or something to hang up on your wall.
like
So,
just like Brian Kelly, getting the new surroundings and just totally changed myself.
anything for the family. Robbie, are you aware that today is Mental Health Day?
I did not know that. I did not know that.
October 10th is National Mental Health Day, which we could all definitely take a break and use that opportunity to reflect on things and make sure that our families and ourselves are in the proper place and are doing well. And another fun fact of October 10th, 1845, the U.S. Naval Academy opened up, which it was originally called the Naval School, where
Yeah.
50 members were the inaugural enrollment. So that was interesting. And the number one song in 1987, October 10th, was White Snake. Here I go again. And ladies
Yeah.
and gentlemen, as I speak that, my mullet is growing. So
Uh, yeah, and just to touch briefly on Mental Health Day, any of my friends are listening, or anyone in the Chattanooga area knows what we've been dealing with. And so, yes, if you have mental problems or you feel yourself having mental issues, get some help. Don't
yeah,
ever be too proud to ask. And it is a epidemic in this country, and not in this country, in the world. But yes,
it,
get help if you need help.
it is. And I think it's a stigma with men, and it's a pride issue. Some men would rather keep it inside instead of letting it out because they don't feel manly if they admit that they have a problem. But um, you got to think about yourself. You got to think about the people around you, whether it's your wife, whether it's your kids, if you have them. When you're not right, they're not right. So you have to make sure that everything's clicking, and don't be afraid to ask for help because there's somebody there that's willing to listen. And we as a show as a whole, the four of us are very, very proactive when it comes to mental health, and aren't afraid to admit to each other when there's issues. So don't be afraid. If there's a problem, reach out to somebody, because I'd rather have you reach out to me than have you not there. So, but
Yeah.
great take, Robbie. Great take for sure. So we're gonna get this thing going tonight, and we're gonna start. We're gonna start in the world of college football, as you can see there on the left in our rundown. We're gonna go down to Miami, and what might go down as one of the biggest bonehead coaching decisions, maybe in the history of college football. To recap, Mario Cristobal, they've got a 5-point lead with 40 seconds to play. Georgia Tech has no timeouts. All they got to do is kneel on the ball. What do? They run a play. And what happens? You guessed it. There was a fumble. Questionable fumble. Some will say that it may not have been a fumble, but nonetheless, a fumble occurred. Georgia Tech takes possession, goes down, and with no time on the clock, they stun the Hurricanes in Miami for the win. How big of a bonehead decision is that? And should there be any ramifications for him for deciding that?
This was. I'm not saying it's Pete Carroll level, not giving the ball to Marshawn Lynch, dumb,
Marshawn, yeah.
because of the stakes of that. But this was just idiotic. I just think like back to, my heavy PlayStation days. If you're the defense here, you're like begging, like, please take a gamble, run, because there's
Yeah.
nothing more helpless than just having the other team take a knee. You're like, run a play, maybe something's gonna happen. This is like, have you ever played Madden? Like that's like this question in the interview. Like, I think that needs to be asked. Like, you see coaches with hell, Josh Heupel burning 3 timeouts and early in against Florida. Like, these are just bonehead. This, like, have you ever played a video game? Like, much less coaching. But this was just it. I mean, the backfiring. I mean, it is worth coming to have a serious conversation with them if they fumble. Well, one, if nothing goes wrong, still, why are you doing this? But then just to
Hmm.
fumble and not lose the game, like, whoa, what are you thinking? But to actually have all this happen is just like, it's like the karma just being like, that was really dumb, and we're going to show you how dumb it can be. I mean, what did you
Yeah.
think? I mean, it was one of those where it was,
You you don't expect a mistake like that from Cristobal, who
yeah,
he's an experienced coach coming from Oregon. He's under fire because he really hasn't turned that program around like a lot of people thought. But what was intriguing to me is one of the coaches on the offensive side basically got right in his face. Is like, you got to kneel on it. You got to kneel on it,
yeah,
and they ran a play. So I it just doesn't make sense to me that you would even put your team in that situation. And you can't fault the kids because obviously they're doing what the coach is instructing them to do. But I think this kind of puts all their quarterbacks on notice when the coach is asking you to call a play when you've already got the game at hand and all you need is one kneel down and it's over. I think there might be an audible called in that situation, but
yeah.
it's one of those things where I don't think you'll see him make that mistake again because if he does, then now we're questioning his intellect as far as a coach is concerned.
Well, and then if isn't this the second time something like this has happened to him?
I'm not sure. I know there was a
I saw something on,
situation. There was a situation. I don't believe it was his team, but the team had no timeouts, and instead of spiking the ball, they took a knee, which kept the
uh,
clock rolling. And
um,
then eventually the time ran out and game was over.
I
But
mean,
as far
the
as him,
other,
I'm not sure.
yeah, and the other thing is, this is a very winnable ACC,
Yeah.
and Miami just lost the game to Georgia Tech, who's not very good,
Mm-mm.
that they absolutely should not have.
Nope.
And you're looking at, a potential outside playoff chance there, and then yes, the bad loss, probably one that very similar to some of those Purdue losses that you guys Big Ten team guys like to talk about. Those Purdue losses that keep you out of the playoffs. This was a bad one.
Yeah, it was. It'll go down. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Uh, then heading up to Louisville. Yep, that's right. I said it. Louisville, not Louisville or Louisville, but Louisville, where the Cardinals put on a defensive clinic against Notre Dame. Notre Dame's kind of been trending in the wrong direction the last couple weeks. Get beat by Ohio State and then coming back, barely getting by Duke last week, but um, Hartman just hasn't looked really good as far as quarterbacks are concerned. He's kind of just doing enough, and they've relied mostly on that defense. You've been an advocate for Notre Dame losing 4 games this year. We're right on the verge of that happening with them playing USC this weekend. Um, if they lose this week, which ironically enough, they're favored, which we'll get into that later on in the show. A little bit of foreshadowing. But Robbie, if they lose this weekend, are they out of the top 25?
They should be. Look, you got coming up USC, Pitt at home, at Clemson, Wake at home. I don't think they do better than 2-2 through that stretch. Um,
Yeah. I mean,
And,
Wake Forest is a coin toss, and
yeah,
they're either hot or they're cold, a lot like Missouri.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think this was a lot of the hype, and as always with Notre Dame, and I'm not a Notre Dame hater. I'm not. I just know
Right.
what I've seen, and yeah, they squeaked by Duke. They had a chance with Ohio State before kind of Ohio State starting to find their footing. Um, but yeah, I mean, I haven't looked at the rankings today. How far did
They're
uh
21 right now. They
21? So
dropped to
yeah,
21.
so
Yeah.
them and yeah, oh yeah, no, if they lose this weekend at home, especially favored, which yes, I agree with you. That line's a little suspect, but or maybe a trap. So we shall see.
Yeah, it could be.
But yeah,
Obviously,
no,
this number is today, Tuesday, 4 days before the game happens. So it could be a situation with Vegas wanting some money ran on one side,
yeah.
and then they start flipping the switch. But
Well, so through was it through 7 games? What do you make of Notre Dame?
I,
And what do you expect?
it's concerning because their only weapon is the running back, and he had 20 yards on the ground this week. So on like 5 carries. So the commitment to the run is what they should be focused on. It just isn't there. And then ultimately, you have a very questionable receiver core. So Hartman doesn't have a lot of weapons to throw to. And is he doing too much? Is he trying to force things? Maybe. Is it a situation where he's under a lot of pressure to succeed? Obviously, he's got a great track record coming in. So I don't know if it's a coaching issue, and we know that they bungled a play there at the end of the Ohio State game. So now you're coming in to think that,
Yeah.
hey, this could be a coaching problem in Notre Dame. And how long do those boosters and alumnus keep rolling with him? If last year it was an early season kind of hiccup, and this year it's mid-season, and it could last a little bit longer. So you wonder how safe Marcus Freeman really is in South Bend.
Well, Tom, does take. Let me ask you about the flip side of this game. Louisville sitting there undefeated. Their remaining schedule is at Pitt, versus Duke, versus Virginia Tech, versus Virginia, at Miami, versus Kentucky. I bet they're favored all the way through. What's their ceiling? And let's assume they play Florida State in the ACC championship game. Would an undefeated Louisville get in the playoff?
That's a tough question. If they go undefeated and beat Florida State in an ACC championship game, I believe they deserve a playoff berth. Their defense is strong, and in the world of college football, a strong defense could take you places. And
Yeah,
just look at what they did last week.
they're ranked 14 now.
Yeah,
You got 17 Duke on the schedule and 25 Miami, and let's assume it's a top 10 Florida State. While those are three, I mean, if Louisville beats Duke, beats Miami, I don't think either of those teams are ranked at the end. Florida State
no.
will be, but is a win over Notre Dame and Florida State enough to get you in? Are you going to leapfrog some of these players?
Ultimately, it comes down to what everybody else does,
Yeah,
how the SEC plays out. A weak SEC this year, we may only see one team get in. Will two Big Ten teams get in again this year? I don't know if that'll happen. I guess that all depends on how the game comes out at the end of November. But you have to include them in the conversation
yeah,
because the defense is legit. I think the one thing that might keep some voters from giving a look is maybe their offense. But it's been
well,
impressive. It's been impressive this year, and really looking at that schedule, this Saturday might be their toughest task the rest of the way.
yeah. I
With
think so.
at Pitt, at Miami doesn't scare me, and home against Kentucky. That's an in-state rivalry, and if
Yeah.
they're going up for an opportunity to play in an ACC championship game, that's going to be a battle. And at
Um,
home, I like their chances there.
Louisville, if you're a Louisville fan, you now have to be an Oklahoma fan
Yeah.
because you do not need Texas and Oklahoma to split in the Big 12
Mm-mm.
championship game.
Right. Right. Yeah. You want the top maybe 8 to start getting real suspect, we'll say,
Yeah.
when it comes to wins and losses, because the more that there's some turnover in that number, I think increases their chances, barring them, winning, continuing on their streak. But
Yeah.
it's exciting in Louisville, and they went in there on prime time and proved that they weren't afraid of the big Fighting Irish, because that was a clean win for them.
Yes. Yes, it was.
But here's one of the mentioned teams, Ohio State. They looked really discombobulated in the first half against Maryland. Maryland actually had a lead at one point, a 10-point lead, and it's ironic because they highlighted that Josh Gaddis is the offensive coordinator of Maryland, and it seemed at that point in the game, the offensive mindset changed. They started focusing on the run when Tagovailoa was clearly picking apart Ohio State's secondary, and the momentum changed. Ohio State came out and pretty much dominated in that second half. But I guess my question to you is, they've been playing with fire, Ohio State, whether it be a lack of a running game or just a really soft secondary. Do you think they get away with these games with one coming up here, I believe next week? They play Penn State, and then obviously coming here to Ann Arbor at the last Saturday of
Uh,
November.
well, I did not plan this with that opening that I had, but don't look now. At Purdue, 11 a.m. local time kickoff on the road. Um, does this little weird, tricky place to play get them? Are they looking towards Penn State? I think this is a trap game this weekend.
Uh, Purdue is probably the biggest head scratcher in the Big Ten. They're a lot like Missouri or Wake
Yeah,
Forest. You never know what you're going to get. There's kind of no gray area with them. They're either hot or cold. But yeah, I mean, their biggest game of the year is next week, and
yeah.
um, at home,
Well,
which
and then they got
which
at Wisconsin after that. This is a trap game right
yeah,
here.
yeah. This is the start of a pretty good run. What, Wisconsin's a lot better. Rutgers, I mean, Greg Schiano, he's going to have a little fire on the sidelines for that one, seeing that he
Yeah.
was an assistant coach at Ohio State. So there's a couple weeks here that could be really tricky for
But
the
yeah,
Buckeyes.
but to answer your question, not only do they get away with playing how they're playing, they won't win in Ann Arbor playing like this. And if they don't improve, let me say this, I think maybe Penn State. I think Penn State maybe can slip up more than Ohio State. Just they've got the win against Notre Dame, but that's going to fall. I mean, I keep saying that's going to falter. I don't think Notre Dame's going to be a big win. And then the schedule's just not that tough. So Ohio State can't lose to somebody they shouldn't lose to.
Right. Yeah.
So maybe just that loss at Michigan. I mean, obviously they go undefeated, they're in. But yeah, I worry about them. It's not that they haven't won; they just haven't looked good. Not what you expect from this Ohio State team.
Well, McCord, he had a really nice drive there at the end of the Notre Dame game. Unfortunately, they had a bye, so I think whatever momentum they had, they slipped up a little bit. But they didn't have Travion Henderson. Their running game is really a lot like it was last year. They had injury problems, and I think they're relying on Kyle McCord to really get them through. And these defenses are, if you got a good front defense, and Maryland pressured him really well in that first half, forced a lot of bad throws. It took a lot of bad sacks. So I think a good defense, especially up front, that Penn State has a really good defense, and I think that's carried them throughout the season. And we know Michigan's got a good defense. So I don't know if he can go in Ann Arbor and pull out a victory.
Toss up. More likely to make the college football playoff. Penn State or Ohio State?
Ohio State. Yeah, I don't have faith in James Franklin. He was
that was. I look at the schedule and I want to say Penn State, but I agree. I don't have faith in James Franklin either.
I think Maryland beats them in a couple weeks because that's at Maryland. Next week, Ohio State. That's going to be a tough game, and then after the Maryland game, they've got Michigan at home. So James Franklin's already throwing fuel to the fire, making jabs at Michigan on Twitter, basically saying that there's a certain team in the conference that's paying off other programs so they don't have to pay them, allegedly. So he's going to do what he does best, and it's falter as the season goes along. So I don't give them much of a chance to get to the college football playoffs. So there was a little bit of controversy at the end of the Colorado-Arizona State game between Shedeur Sanders and the Arizona State student section. They were really jawing at him most of the game, calling him overrated, using some expletives with his name. And he did what we think he can do. He went down and orchestrated a really nice late game touchdown drive to put them up. The defense came through at the end, and he ran over to the student section with his Rolex, doing the pointing thing. I love the passion. I think that's today's, youth, today's college football. But I think he may have gone a little too far as that goes, because let's face it, he's kind of an entitled young man. He's been given a pretty generous life with who his father was. But how do you feel about kind of the perception that Colorado has, is a lot of the somebody referred them to on a show I was watching today as a lot of the old whites don't really like the fact that they're passionate and they kind of lay it all on the field. But how do you feel about the way they kind of handle themselves on the field?
So we've talked about this several times on the show. My favorite NFL player growing up, and probably, of all time still, was Barry Sanders. And Barry Sanders, he always acted like he had been there before.
Yep.
He always handed the ball to the referee. And that's what I grew up admiring. I understand. I don't want to be the old man, get off my lawn, but that's just who I grew up idolizing, and that's who I fell in love with watching football. And so kids want to have, players, kids, speaking of just sidetrack, it made me feel really old that LeBron is now the oldest player in the NBA and he's younger than me. So I've reached that threshold in life, but that's kind of just how I view things. Like, act like you've been there before.
Yep.
Never be surprised at anything. And part of that is, I tell my clients when we're waiting for a jury verdict to come back, you got to act like you expected exactly what happened. Like, don't be happy. We expect this. We work hard for this. And so, but like I said, I understand there's different perspectives. I'm not saying I'm right, he's wrong, or vice versa. But if you're asking me my personal preference, it's Barry Sanders, hand the ball to the referee after you score.
Yeah, growing up right down the road watching him, it just and really there hasn't been any other players outside of maybe Nick Chubb of Cleveland that kind of emulate that, where
Mhm.
crosses the goal line and it's like, okay, I did my job. But these kids are having fun, and Dion is pushing
'Cause,
it.
yeah, Dion was not that way. Dion Sanders was not Barry Sanders. Dion
No,
was high
no, he
stepping and,
he would tell you what he's going to do, and he would do it. He would back it
yeah,
up. So definitely parallels to those two, but not to be surprised. But I just think looking long term, the kid's got talent abound, and I would hate to see him get kind of put in an umbrella of the thug, as a lot of people like to run to and call, which I don't think that is the case. He seems like a really good kid, but
yeah.
um, but off
Well,
the football field, I don't think they handle themselves that way, and Dion really emphasizes them handling themselves like a man, just like what Travis Hunter did
yeah,
with the kid from
yeah,
Colorado
yeah,
State.
yeah,
We talked about just what a classy move, and orchestrated 100% by Deion Sanders, just to show the class act that he really is, that people don't really get to see on an everyday basis. But
yeah,
we'll see.
and
The kid's got a
yeah,
lot of talent.
yeah. Well, and I mean, just for if I was advising the kid, I would just be like, look, you're talented, you're good, you have a last name, you have all this. The last thing you want to do is people are crazy,
Hmm.
and like while yes, these death threats that kid from Colorado State got, it's just words on a keyboard, but people are crazy, and
Yeah, they are.
you're playing a game for a living and enjoy it, but you don't necessarily want to be hated.
No, absolutely not. Red River rivalry definitely lived up to its name. Unlike last year, which was a Texas blowout, Oklahoma pulls off a stunner at the end. Uh, Texas takes the lead with about a minute 30, minute 40 to play. They're celebrating on the sidelines, but Brett Vegetables, as our good buddy Brandon Chain would call him, pulled the ultimate Lee Corso. Not so fast.
Uh,
Uh, Gabriel went down and orchestrated one hell of a drive that resulted in a game-winning touchdown. Um, what do you make of basically Texas's inability at that moment to make the key stops? Is that a discipline situation, or is it a kind of another coaching blunder? Since that seems to be the theme tonight.
this is where if Raj was here, I would yield my time to Raj to talk about Sark blowing a close game.
Oh yeah,
Um,
he's a big fan from what we understand.
yeah. But yeah, I can't believe we're having a whole discussion of Oklahoma, Texas, and we don't have Brandon and Raj on here.
Yeah, it
Um,
sucks.
these are rivalry games, and I think this is you get tense in the moment, and emotions, and uh, I think these kind of things are really what's made Saban stand out, and now Kirby Smart is they don't let their teams get too up for things. Like it's just like we're not playing the opponent, we're playing ourselves.
Hmm.
We're playing the scoreboard, we're playing the time. Um, when you get into these emotional games like this, and it is, oh, we're playing, the other team. This is where mistakes happen, where people try too much to get out of position. But yes, it was just a back and forth, and a great game. And man, Oklahoma is setting up nice now, and Texas
Would
for that matter.
Yeah, I don't think Texas really fell too far because of this loss. Rivalry game, a lot like Michigan, Ohio State. They're not going to fall, but Oklahoma really jumped because of this win. Uh, there was a lot of question marks coming into this game as far as Oklahoma was concerned. Not a lot of people talking about them like they were talking about Texas. Where does this put them? Are they a legitimate top 5 team in college football right now?
Well, before I get to that, the intriguing thing for me and for my neck of the woods is where this puts Alabama. Can Alabama ever go back and jump Texas now? Because if Texas goes on and wins, and let's say plays out to Oklahoma, Texas, they go both run it. Texas beats Oklahoma. Texas and Oklahoma are probably in. Even an SEC champion Alabama, depending on what happens to the rest of the country, they lost at home by 2 touchdowns to Texas.
Yeah. And Alabama's sitting at 11 in the AP with Texas at 9, and then the coaches have Alabama at 10 and Texas at 11. So,
which is just, but Oklahoma, so they have UCF at Kansas, at Oklahoma State, Bedlam, last one maybe ever. West Virginia at BYU is going to be
that could be a tough game.
Yeah,
it's not easy to play in Provo, that's for sure. The elevation, and it gets kind of cold up there, and they're going to be pushing for that thing to be a night game.
Yeah,
don't count out TCU. Their TCU is not the TCU that we've seen this year, but what do they have to play for at that point? So
yeah,
their schedule could be rocky. At Kansas, Kansas played Texas pretty tough last week. So
if I'm taking stock, and we're going to get to that, I'm buying Oklahoma stock right now.
Okay. I think they're better than Florida State. The pundits love Florida State. I think they've got a really good offense. Their defense is trash. We don't really know who Georgia is. Georgia finally showed a pulse last week against Kentucky. Boy, did they ever. That was kind of a beatdown. And Washington has looked great. They the last couple of weeks they've slipped a little bit, but they're still undefeated. So and I don't believe in Penn State. So I think they're in the conversation. If they play like they did last week, there's no question they deserve to be in the conversation for the college football playoff. No question about it. So, Robbie, we're going to go to game balls and fumbles for this past week in the world of college football. So, who's got your game ball and who's got your fumble for the week?
Mine is, well, the fumble is just too cute to not play on Miami. But no, I am going the same game, really. My game ball goes to Georgia, who, as you said, was kind of starting to get doubted. Oh, this Kentucky team, they're ranked. Do they have a 14 and a half point spread? They obliterated that spread. I thought they looked good. Honorable mention to Michigan, who rode the boat right over Minnesota on the road. They looked really, really good.
One penalty in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah,
from Michigan.
I think those two teams are head and shoulders above everyone else right now, Georgia and Michigan, with Michigan probably being ahead of Georgia. And my fumble was Mark Stoops. I don't know if you heard what he said yesterday.
No.
So Mark Stoops just essentially in his weekly show was saying, that's what it looks like when you can buy the best 85 players. If the fans are complaining we didn't show up, get your donations ready, get them more up. We need more money.
Wow.
It was
very transparent coach.
Yeah, it was very much the topic on Feinbaum today. And I don't think he's walked it back yet, but just one of those
Is he lying though?
I mean, it is a fact. Georgia spends the most money on the recruiting budget, but it's legal now. I mean, it's
Mhm.
not,
For now. For
yeah.
now. Yeah,
Um,
I
but he made it sound like, like it's the
he was
1 year
making
wonder.
excuses.
Yeah,
He
well,
was
and it's like a
making
1 year
excuses.
wonder. Like, oh, they just paid for this team. Like, they're back to back champions. They hadn't
Right.
lost in 2.5 years. Like, come on now.
That deserves some sort of respect.
Yeah,
I can appreciate a coach being very transparent. I think we all get kind of sick of the same old coach speak. You know, one game at a time, and respect to the other team, blah blah blah. When you have a coach that kind of just speaks what's on their mind, it's something that we're not used to hearing. But my game ball, I said it earlier. I think that Louisville defense against Notre Dame forced 5 turnovers. Estime only 20 yards. This guy's the second coming of Jerome Bettis. He's an absolute tank. And if you can hold that guy with that offensive line to only 20 yards, man, you're playing at your
yeah,
best level. And the fumble is Mario Cristobal. I don't think you give it to anybody else.
yeah. I mean,
We talked about it earlier. Just you gave the game away, and they're lucky to still be a part of the top 25. But man, it just a dumb decision. So he gets my fumble for the week, and we're gonna move into our top 5 rankings this week. Short staffed, reckless speculation. So just Robbie and myself, as I mentioned earlier in the show. So Robbie, who's your top 5 in college football this week?
um, so Georgia, not necessarily because I think they're playing the best, but hey, they're two-time defending champs, and they've got the second or first best coach in football, and they got the most talent. Uh, I'll put them as number 1. I got Michigan at 2. Um, I'm going to go Oklahoma at 3, and I'm going Texas at 4.
Hmm.
And then I
What
guess
about 5?
I was gonna say, I guess we're doing 5. Um, at this stage right now, I I don't love them, but I'm gonna go FSU. I'm not sure they're in the same category though, but that's mine. So UGA, Michigan, Oklahoma, Texas, Florida State.
Similar. I think Georgia did enough this week and showed up. Like I said, they had a pulse. Carson Beck played a hell of a game, and anytime you have number 19 on the field, you're gonna have success, or at least you should have success.
Yeah.
Bauer's going to be a top 10 pick in the NFL draft next year. So they did enough to stay at number 1. Now, Michigan, 1A, I think the question mark has always been, well, you really haven't played anybody. And it's the same script as we talked about last year. They went into this game, and first play of the game, pick 6, Will Johnson.
Yeah.
They asserted themselves immediately. That quarterback for Minnesota, I felt so sorry for him. He looked like a deer in headlights. That defense was all over him. If not for the drubbing that Kentucky took from Georgia, I think Michigan's number 1. But Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State did what Ohio State does: slow start, and then they end up covering by a half point. Unfortunately, I came out with the loss in that one. But then, as I was talking, I kind of flipped my switch here. I had Florida State at 4. I'm going to flip. I'm going to go Oklahoma 4, because that win was impressive. And you mentioned the fact that Texas went down to Tuscaloosa and wins by 2 touchdowns. I think that means something right now.
Yeah.
And then when you turn around and you win, you beat that team on a neutral site, which, I mean, keeps it somewhat fair, but nonetheless, you go and win that game. I think that means something. So Oklahoma at 4, and then Florida State at 5. They're teetering as far as I'm concerned. Like I said, their offense is solid, but I don't trust that defense. And if you are giving up 30 to 40 a game, it's you're expecting your offense to put
Yeah.
up 40 to 45 or more, and that's a tall task. So I don't see them holding on much longer.
Yeah,
But
Florida State's big win was LSU, and that looks worse and worse as the season goes
yeah,
on.
and LSU just
Yeah.
kind of shit the bed there. Pardon the pun. But moving on to our NFL segment here. Big problems in the Twin Cities. The Vikings announced today Justin Jefferson. They didn't give a time. They just said significant time. And there's rumors that the fact that he turned down what would have been the largest contract in NFL history for a receiver before the season started, I think this is going to affect that. So there's a good chance we won't see Justin Jefferson probably for the next 4 to 6 weeks, maybe if not longer. They're sitting at 1-4 in the NFC North. The talk on this show has always been it's time to move on from Kirk Cousins. And there's one specific team that we mentioned, and that's the Jets. But I think as the season has progressed a little bit more, there's some more options that could possibly happen with Kirk Cousins in a trade. Is it time for Minnesota to kind of throw in the towel and move on from Cousins, who this is the last year of his contract? And do you want to pay someone his age who's going to demand a lot of money? Are they going to want to go down that route?
No, I don't think they are. The question is, though, all right, you have to have a trading partner that Cousins is going to sign a long-term deal with that wants to pay him a long-term deal. Cousins is like um, he's like the crazy girl that's kind of hot, and it's just intriguing to be
the
like,
the risk is worth the reward.
yeah, like can I tame this person? That's kind of what Cousins is. You know,
I know you're a big fan.
uh, I'm not a big fan. He's on my. I mean, I don't dislike him. He's on my fantasy team because this is how the Vikings do. Like they suck, but he throws a lot. Like
Mm-hmm.
they're just a weird team. Like they'll be in the playoffs and then. But yeah, you're 0-3 at home. You're the Vikings. You're looking at a bad season. Uh, I know you start taking phone calls. You
Mm-hmm.
know, now
Well,
does he?
he's having a good year.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
not losing on his accord by no
no,
stretch. They've lost a lot on defense. Their running game is depleted. They let Delvin Cook walk. So I think the fact that they're 1-4 has nothing to do with his ability.
yeah. Well, like you look at the Giants. They just signed Daniel Jones. Like
Hmm.
so, then um, now if you're the Patriots, are you intrigued? I mean, their
Here's
season.
here's my take on the Patriots. Yes, they'd be interested, but Kirk Cousins, looking at that roster, who's he going to throw the ball to?
Oh yeah, no, they're terrible.
They've got a B squad at best. So I think if I don't know if he has a no trade on his contract or
Yeah.
not, but if he was to move, I don't think he would be willing to sign a long term contract.
Well, and like let's say we take a team like the Jets. Like yeah, the Jets, they're 2-3. Um,
He would make them a playoff team with the
but you
weapons that they have.
wait with Buffalo and Miami in the same division.
I think they would be a playoff contender. You can get 3 teams out of that East, but
Um,
with the offense that they have and the defense that they have, they're
but but
immediately.
but they're not. But so this was my thing. If I'm the Jets with Cousins, we're still not good enough to win this year. So are you going to trade to get Cousins with Aaron Rodgers coming back? and then you're just in this
Yeah.
quagmire situation.
And that's one thing that I was watching the show earlier today, and the one thing that they highlighted that it wasn't going to be the Jets because Aaron Rodgers is coming back, and
Yeah,
there's a lot of indications that Aaron Rodgers wants to come back this year, which I don't know if that A is possible
yeah,
or B why he would want to risk it, but he's going to play next year nonetheless. So I don't think Cousins wants to go into a situation where he's just a rental player.
yeah.
So I'm going to give you a team that you could plug in. You might even be able to get a contract made 2 to 3 years, and they have the pieces in place to compete in a division that's fairly weak, and it's your Tennessee Titans. How do you feel about that?
um, that's the most winnable division in sports right now.
Yeah.
Um, Now, do you trade Cousins for Tannehill? I think you do, and I wonder what the asking price is. You have Derrick Henry, whose window is closing.
Mm.
Uh,
You
the
go
one thing,
Tannehill and maybe even Willis.
I mean, the thing about the Titans, if you upgrade at quarterback, the Titans play so counterintuitive to the rest of the league right now. You can keep the Dolphins off the field, the Bills off the
Mhm.
field, the Chiefs off the field.
They
So
grind the clock.
yeah, you can do that. I wouldn't hate it. It would depend on what the asking price is. I also at this point don't care if the Titans lose the rest of the games and try to get the number one pick. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. I
um,
mean, do they go quarterback 3 years in a row? That is the big pick. And I texted this out earlier. The Cowboys. Dak's not going back to Dallas next year. So you go Dak and Trey Lance for Kirk Cousins. Now, this gives Dak the rest of the season to kind of display his talents, we'll say, and work on a contract elsewhere. But it also gives an opportunity to Trey Lance to compete for a starting job next year in a market that isn't flashy like San Francisco, like Dallas, where I just don't think he's set up to succeed in those bigger markets. But I think Minnesota in an NFC North with his ability, I think he would have a good opportunity to compete for a starting job and maybe have a little bit of success. But that might be the biggest stretch option that is on the
yeah,
table as far as Cousins is concerned.
and I don't necessarily hate that. If I'm Minnesota though, I need draft picks.
Yeah,
I'm not gambling on Trey Lance, who wasn't good enough in San Francisco, not good enough in Dallas, for Dak, who probably won't
right.
re-sign. I
Mm-mm.
need I need both of them and a lot of draft picks. And I don't know, but Kirk Cousins on Dallas, they're not they're
That
not
that
better they're not better than the Eagles for the whole season, but they're good enough to beat them in one game. Dallas will make the playoffs, and then it's just see how the ball bounces.
I think Kirk Cousins on Dallas is like Kirk Cousins the 2 years previously. A dynamic wide receiver. You've got a good running game. I think the biggest hole at with the Cowboys is concerned might be tight end, but they've got Luke Schoonmaker, the rookie, who's shown some flashes. But you put a nice offensive line in front of him. I think he
Yeah.
could succeed there. That would be a good decision for them.
And just to back up 2 point, if I'm Justin Jefferson, I don't step foot back on a football field until
No,
that contract is signed.
mm-mm. Well, he made a comment, which I don't know if this was true or not, as far as he's concerned, is he said he didn't even want to talk contract unless he knew Kirk Cousins was going to be his quarterback because he loved playing with Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much he loves playing with Kirk Cousins, but we'll see. If they lose Justin Jefferson, you can pretty much throw in the towel for the next couple years with the Vikings. They're going to go back to what the Lions used to be like the previous regime. Talk about a team that is just absolutely in disarray. And you hate to say it. Is it time to put to bed one of the greatest coaches to ever man the sideline in the NFL, Bill Belichick? Loses 34-0 at home to the Saints. Just 2 weeks in a row, abysmal losses. Mac Jones gets benched again. Bailey Zappi didn't do any better. Just, I think he's lost control. And I think, sadly, this run might need to come to an end.
Yeah, it's almost a tale as old as time, right? You saw it with Bobby Bowden at Florida State. You saw it with Joe Paterno at Penn State. Steven Belichick, I think his name's Steven, being the defensive coordinator.
He's got to go.
Once you start forcing the organization, the entity, the hire family you have now, and even if he is the best person for the job, he can get a job at a different NFL team. I think that was kind of the downfall of Belichick. Just his greatness demanded so much power, but with so much power, eventually you start making bad decisions because there's no one to tell you no. I wouldn't be surprised. I do not think Bob Kraft will fire him. I think there is going to be a conversation after this season that for both of them, like, hey, the talent the Patriots have, partly because of Belichick, isn't good enough. If Belichick wants to pass Shula on the career wins total, which
it won't happen.
He does.
But it won't happen. I mean, he's 4 to.
Well, and the question becomes, let's say they do part ways, and let's say there's 6 openings in the NFL. How many of those 6 teams want a 72-year-old Bill Belichick versus, you're going to hate this, Ben Johnson?
Hey, I'm already preparing myself, my friend. I'm already preparing myself. No, and in the state of the NFL, you're seeing it. Mike McDaniels. This guy, he is anti-coach from every sense of the imagination, but he's a winner, and he's a football genius. Kyle Shanahan, he's young, he's offensively just he look at what he's doing with Brock Purdy, Tom Brady 2.0. That's kind of the theme that the NFL is going. And Ben Johnson, for all intents and purposes, should be the coach of the Carolina Panthers. But I think he saw what they had compared to where he was at and felt like his best option was here in Detroit. But that's not going to stay much longer. But no, I mean, there's no other – I don't think there's no other franchise that he would even think about going to coach. I think Kraft offers him some sort of a make-believe position with the front office, so that way he still has some sort of connection. But he's old school, and in the way the NFL is these days, you got to adapt. It's a lot like college. If you're not adapting to the NIL, you're not going to win. And you're seeing the schools that make that effort and the ones that don't, and the results show. But as far as Belichick's concerned, you nailed it. When you have too much power and it's your way or no way, you lose a lot. And when you're unwilling to spend that extra dime on the right players because, they might ask for a little bit too much, you're not going to win the NFL, specifically in that division, which with Aaron Rodgers healthy could have been the best division in football. But no, I think the conversation needs to be had if it hasn't started already, because it's embarrassing. And their draft picks the last 3 or 4 years have, they've just haven't been smart, and they have not had any talent. And it started with maybe Brady saw the writing on the wall. That's why he wanted out, and good on him for doing so. But it's like the old superstar that played a little bit too long. So Miguel Cabrera, perfect example. One of the
Yeah.
greatest hitters baseball has ever seen. The last 3 years of his career, he was a shell of himself. And unfortunately, there's a lot of young people that's what they'll remember Miguel Cabrera as. They won't remember his battle he had in 2012 against Mario Riviera, who he went home run dead center off him, which no one ever did. But that was him. So you worry that he keeps going too long, his reputation gets
Well, I mean,
tarnished.
this is his 2 worst losses back to back, and against really 2 mediocre teams.
Right. Yeah. That had no business
Yeah.
going in there and running roughshod. So sad times in New England, that's for sure. I've got a cousin who's a big New England fan, and I'm sure he's up in arms over the situation. But let's move on to the AFC North. You can take your predictions, rip them up, and throw them in the air because who knows what's going on in this division. You thought Baltimore was the pride of the division. They go to Pittsburgh and lay an absolute egg against Kenny Pickett's Steelers. Pickett gets a nice play to Pickens at the end of the game to get the go-ahead touchdown, which ironically enough was not the play that Matt Canada called. He took it upon himself and designed the play for Pickens to get ultimately wins, but didn't see that happening. Pittsburgh's got a hell of a defense, and that's going to carry them only so far. But who's the cream of the crop in this division? Cleveland 1 week looked great, and then Baltimore destroys them. Baltimore goes to Pittsburgh last week and loses. Pittsburgh looks absolutely horrendous the week before. Cincinnati has been a big question mark. They come out and put up numbers like they used to. So, in your estimation, who would be at this point, record aside, who's the best team in the FC North?
That's like asking what's the best gas station sushi to get. What would your role be? I
Sushi,
think
no.
I think you know, I think Cincinnati. I think Burrow and Chase kind of got it back on track. The Cardinals aren't very good, but and we're gonna get to this ranking the top 5 NFL teams. Have you tried to rank the top 10 NFL teams? It drops pretty significantly after that top tier.
It does.
So I'm going to take the best quarterback in this division, and I think it's Joe Burrow, even though I have called him a bum on many, many, many occasions.
Yes, you have.
The Ravens just don't have that many. Their receivers aren't very good. I think Tomlin's probably the best coach of the group, but narrowly Harbaugh is there. I don't know what's going on with the Browns. They just probably aren't good against the Titans.
There's issues with rub and tug Deshaun Watson, who apparently spent the week in Houston. Leading up to last week's game, and all indications where he was supposed to play, but then decided against it. Didn't feel he was comfortable. So I think there's a lot more issues there in Cleveland. Great defense.
Luckily, the Haslam's guaranteed his contract, so he can settle these lawsuits.
Yep. So their defense is only going to take them so far. Their defense is
who do you like in
really
this
good.
division?
I agree with you. I like Cincinnati, and if they show, this happened against Arizona, but Jamar Chase put on a clinic, and Burrow looked healthy. He was a little bit more mobile too. He looked more comfortable in the pocket. They've got Seattle at home this week. Then they go to San Francisco. That's going to be a big test for them. So we'll see. And then they're back home the following week, Sunday night against the Bills. That should be a hell of a game. But after that, the schedule is at the Ravens, home against Pittsburgh, at Jacksonville, home against the Colts, home against Minnesota, at Pittsburgh, at Kansas City, where we all know Burrow has a hell of a record, and then finish the season home against Cleveland. I think the schedule is set up for success for Cincinnati, and this is a team that typically starts a little bit slow. They kind of get their feet underneath them. They get their running game going, and as the season goes on, they get a little bit stronger. So
Well,
I think that was a turning point for them last Sunday against Cardinals.
well, in the AFC, which we thought was going to be this juggernaut of a conference, I mean, you're only really confident about Miami, Buffalo, and Kansas City, right? I mean,
And how comfortable are you with Kansas City?
yeah, I mean, it's
they won because of, hate to say it, the refs blundered another call. 2 calls at the end of that game that helped them. So they have not looked like the Kansas City Chiefs of old. I mean, they look a lot like last year's Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah.
Winning by 1 score.
And then yeah, I mean the AFC North, Pittsburgh is leading it. They have a point differentiation of -31, and they're leading the division.
Yeah,
like that's
it's ugly. It's ugly. If not for the NFC North, ironically, both North divisions are pretty subpar. Not named the Lions, but we'll go back to last night, Monday Night Football. Talk about an ugly game. NFC North representative, the Packers. Jordan Love, he's got some work to do. Threw 3 picks. The last one really wasn't his fault because Marcus Peters made a nice play, deflected the ball, got up. And Las Vegas ended up taking the ball over with less than 5 to play. But Max Crosby was an absolute menace on the football field, as he is every week. Undoubtedly top 5 defensive player in the NFL. Unfortunately, he plays for the Las Vegas Raiders. A, how good do you think he is? And B, would he get more notoriety, say he played on the 49ers or Buffalo or Kansas City?
Yeah, absolutely. One, yeah, he's a phenomenal player. Hell of a game, hell of a player. This game, I mean, this was just a blah game, and so many of these primetime games have been thus far. I mean, even the Sunday night game, while it was, 2 brand names, and I mean, the Raiders and Packers are brand names too. It just wasn't very good. And, I think it's a bigger problem in the NFL is I think that the NFL is giving the quarterback position so much leverage and so much power and so much freedom, and it's all about the quarterback position without realizing there's not 32 people in the world that can do this job really well.
No.
And I feel like that, like the running back position is being cut out, and it's all this passing stuff. There's not 32 people that can do the job. There's not. And so that's why. And when we get to, they're also seriously, try to rank 10 to 20 NFL teams. It's just like whatever.
And what's the difference between those teams up the top of the rankings and toward the middle and beyond? They have a quarterback.
Yeah,
and that's the one constant in the NFL. I think you're right. And Jordan Love, it doesn't seem to be following that Green Bay suit of Favre to Aaron Rodgers, now to Love. And you really can't say that he doesn't have weapons because they've got a really nice young receiving core. Their running game has been suspect. Aaron Jones has been hurt. He was a holdout last night, so he didn't play. But it's going to be tough. I mean, granted, Favre and Rodgers had Pro Bowlers to throw the ball to, but Yeah, it's going to be tough times moving on with Green Bay, but with Max Crosby, I think you might see him really push, and he's already started, chirping him and Devontae Adams that they're not happy. And Max Crosby went to college right down the road, Ypsilanti at Eastern Michigan. He grew up loving the Lions, and can you imagine what he would look like on the other end of Aiden Hutchinson? Oh man, Lion Twitter has already speculated that the Lions need to make a push.
Let's talk about your Lions. Paint the picture of Ford Field and um, what it's like right now to be a Lions fan, because I know you guys have had a long, long, long time of despair and failures and disappointments, and we've seen the bags over the heads. But now, look, I was looking through the standings today, and the Lions are one of three teams in the NFC that have a chance to win this thing.
Great segue. uh, I'll just say Ford Field has been so electric. Words really can't describe uh, the first possession for Carolina. It's 3rd and long. Everyone's on their feet. I'm 4 rows from the top. Everyone's on their feet. The noise, I could barely hear Christina next to me. When she's talking to me, I could barely hear her. It was just so cool to experience that. There's been a lot of hype, and it started last year, finishing the season 8-2. And I think a lot of the offseason was Lions talk. They're going to compete. They should win the North. They might have a shot at an NFC Championship game. And my biggest fear was they weren't ready to live up to that hype. And they have. Injuries aside, they've been decimated with injuries. But they have guys 2-3 deep that have believed in what Dan Campbell's doing, and they're buying in. So, and it really starts with the top. The Fords did not sell this team. Sheila, the daughter, has taken over this team, and she paid attention to what the fans really wanted. And she definitely went in a different path that her father and grandfather went as far as the team was concerned, and did what she felt was necessary. And she hired Rod Wood, who was really questionable because he's not a football guy. He's not a sports guy. He was the president of operations at Henry Ford Museum, and he's the president of the Lions. And all he's done is an unbelievable job. So they've rebuilt that front office. They've changed the culture with Dan Campbell and the coaching staff and Brad Holmes as the GM. But the fans have been so excited, and you said it. This is probably, outside of Cleveland, the most starved fan base when it comes to the desire for winning. We've endured an 0-16 season, and countless 3-13 years, and last year was 9-8, and you thought we won the Super Bowl, but it's there's a lot of memes out there like, is this real? This is fun.
Mhm.
Like we're having so much fun just going in week in and week out, and really, like, you're favored in these games where it never was the case.
Remind me, where did Campbell come from? What was his coaching tree?
Campbell was with Sean Payton in New Orleans,
New Orleans, okay.
and he actually went on and was the tight ends coach in Miami. That's where he got his start. Was with Miami.
He took over that year. Like, was he the interim
And
coach?
he was the interim coach, and he
Yeah.
was really good. I think he was like 4-2 to finish the season. And then he latched on with Sean Payton as the tight ends coach there. So, this is his 3rd year, and the first year and a half, there was a lot of questions as far as, like, is this guy who we're entrusting? Like, here we go again. But once they got rid of Anthony Lynn as the offensive play caller, that's when Ben Johnson started to make his way in, and the tide turned. And the rest, as they say, is history. Looking at the division, there's a 2-game lead in going into week 6. It's just it's surreal as a lifelong Lions fan dealing with the agony that we have for so long. But hearing these, even you guys and everybody on the outside of Detroit speak so highly of them, it's really surreal, and I'm all for it. But we'll move on to your team, Tennessee, the roller coaster Titans, we'll call them. Going to Indy, and they knock out Anthony Richardson. So it's Gardner Minshew mania, and they don't get it done. Put on the GM hat for 1 minute and tell me what you would do if you had the ability, and what would you do to make this team better?
Fire myself. No, man, I don't know what they're doing. I'm not sure what the identity is. They traded away AJ Brown, last year, obviously. And now we draft Will Levis. We have Malik Willis, Will Levis, Tannehill. I don't understand if they're trying to win now or trying to win in the future. Obviously, there's this new stadium that's going to be built, but we have no hype. We have I can't give away our Titans tickets.
That's how it was here.
Yeah, it's just like we're in the least attractive division as far as name brands. We have Houston, Indy, Jacksonville, Tennessee. We can't win it. We knock out Anthony Richardson. We lose to a backup quarterback to the effing Colts, who are terrible. And we're going to London. We're relegated to London next week to play the
winnable game. A winnable game.
They're like, and I'm not sure the dynamics of Michigan. Tennessee is always going to be a Volunteers state first.
Yeah.
So the Vols are good, and so the Titans are kind of getting a pass from this just dysfunction that they're in. I think Vrabel's a good coach, but kind of like Belichick, and I'm not comparing Vrabel to Belichick because that's just apples and oranges as far as career achievement. But Vrabel is from the Belichick tree, and our offense is stale, and I can't wait to welcome Ben Johnson as our next head coach. And I say that kind of jokingly. I do think Amy Adams Shrunk will give Will Levis or Malik Willis a year, but there's no way you run this back with Tannehill and Henry when you can't win. If you can't win this division, then just stop trying.
Blow it all up. Just blow it all up. And I think just like Belichick, Vrabel's a hell of a coach. And what he's been able to do down there is great. He's done a lot of good things in Tennessee, and it would be strange to look on the sidelines of a Titans game and not see him there. So
yeah, I mean, he got to an AFC Championship game. If it wasn't for Mahomes playing out of his mind, they're in a Super Bowl.
Sure.
But the league has changed a lot in 3 years.
Well, in that tough guy mentality. I don't think it works. It works in college, but I don't think it works in the NFL. Dan Campbell has kind of that tough man mentality, but he does it in a different way where he respects the players a little bit and he comes at it a little bit differently. So I think his message is a little bit more clear when it comes to that. But Vrabel's a hell of a guy. He's a hell of a coach, and it would be something else to see them move on from him. But unfortunately, in the business of NFL, if you're not winning now, what have you done for me lately? Not for long, and that's kind of the moniker when it comes to coaching. Some of the best, they come and they go, and it might be a time for two of what might be considered some of the best coaches in the game. Time for them to move on. Not really sure where Robbie disappeared to, but we're gonna move on to game balls and fumbles. I'll take the lead until Robbie gets back. My guess is his Jack Daniels barrel aged was dry and he needed to recoup it. So for me this week, the NFL game ball is going to my fantasy wide receiver one, Jamar Chase. I've been waiting for him to wake up. He had a nice game a couple weeks ago, but this week he took off like gangbusters. Team record, 15 receptions for 192 yards and 3 touchdowns. Set a Bengals record, like I say, just incredible. He makes the comment last week. A reporter asked him, "Is it a situation where you're not getting open?" And he was very matter of fact by saying, "I'm always open," and that was definitely the case last week, where Robbie and I agree the Bengals might have been the turning point in their season. And the fumble, it goes to New England. Being shut out at home, worst defeat in Belichick's career, losing 34-0, only 156 yards of offense, 8 touchdowns. Mac Jones benched again. It just a lot like Tennessee, like we spoke earlier. This needs to be blown up from the top and start over. But welcome back, Robbie. I thought maybe your internet connection petered out, but glad to have you back.
No, it was just my drink collection teetered out.
I knew
so I
it.
had to go.
I knew it. That was my guess. That was my guess. Who's your game ball in the NFL and your fumble?
Much like you, for selfish reasons, DJ Moore is my game ball. Laid out
what a game.
52 fantasy points on Thursday night to put me at ease for the weekend. And then Travis Etienne, I think he had 37. So I was at about 89 points before the 1 p.m. kickoffs on Sunday. So I was sitting pretty, dismantled my opponent, and so I was happy about that.
Quite a word.
Yes. And then my fumble is Sean Payton. If you're going to talk that smack and you get beat by Aaron Rodgers' Jets at home to go to 1-4, 0-3 at home, yeah, that $100 million, yeah, those checks are cashing. But I bet the people from East Lansing are flying down to Denver and be like, hey, how does this 4 calls thing work? Because Denver, talk about a front office, what they gave for Russell Wilson, and then they paid Sean Payton to be 1-4, 0-3 at home.
And the comments that he made about Nathaniel Hackett,
say that's the worst.
Kind of came back to haunt him.
So that's my fumble of the week. Like, yeah, you got to have your team ready to play.
And I thought Russell was going to be a little bit better this year, and he hasn't looked good. They have no running game. They've got good receivers, but I think Russell Wilson is about 2 years past his prime, and but they're in it way too deep. They're pot committed, and they don't have draft picks for another couple years because of what they gave up. So yeah, that Sean Payton is eating crow as we speak. And Thursday night, at Kansas City. You're staring down 1-5, another embarrassment on prime time. Yeah,
Yeah.
not looking good. So let's go ahead and give me your power rankings this week in the NFL.
So this was tough for me. I'm going Miami. Yeah,
Wow.
I think their best is the best. I think if they're hitting as it stands today,
Wow.
um, I am
That is
going.
that is a true definition of the title of this program.
Yeah, I'm going
That is
Philly.
reckless.
Philly number 2.
Oh, wow.
San
Folks,
San Fran 3rd. KC 4th. Even though they lost to my 5th ranked team, I'm going Detroit number 5.
wow. That's a bold statement. That's risky. That's risky.
So I'm interested to see how far off we are then if you think that's crazy.
I think the 49ers put on an absolute clinic against Dallas. What Shanahan has been able to do with Brock Purdy is nothing short of amazing. You have the best allotment of weapons, I think, in the NFL with Kittle, Debo, CMC, Brendan Ayuk. Um, it's who pick your poison at that point. And their defense is just absurd. Their defense looks a lot like the Tampa Bay defense from 3 seasons ago. Their linebackers are the best in the business. You've got Bosa on one end. You got Greenlaw in the middle. It's just it, and their secondary is strong. Top to bottom, I think San Francisco is the most complete team. I'll go Miami number 2. Miami's
Okay.
question mark is their defense. Outside of their front 4, I think Phillips is a hell of a player, developing player. I think he's really well, and you get to his protection, and you get Tyreek Hill open in space. It's dangerous. Uh, they lost a chain for 4 to 6 weeks with a knee injury, so flash in the pan running back. Unfortunately, it's going to fall on Mostert, who's looked pretty good this year. He's on my fantasy team, so I hope so. So he'll get more of the carries. But number 3, I'm going right down the street. I'm going to the Detroit Lions. I think each week they've gotten better and better. This is a team who, in my estimation, plays better on the road, which says a lot about who they are. They just absolutely annihilated Carolina. Bryce Young didn't have a prayer. They had a couple nice drives, but ultimately that Lion defense was all over them. Aiden Hutchinson with an absurd interception with his offhand from about 5 feet away, just picks it out of the air. Just amazing. So give me the Lions at 3. The Eagles have been playing with fire. I think the Eagles remind me a lot of Ohio State. They do just enough to stay in the top 5. They've lost a lot on defense. They've lost Epps, CJ Garner-Johnson. The heart and soul of that secondary is gone, and they're kind of showing it right now. But you've got A.J. Brown, and you've got DeAndre Swift, who's a hell of a weapon, and Dallas Goedert's been playing some good football the last 2 weeks. So they stay at 4. In Kansas City, by a thread, stays at number 5. They do just enough. They're gonna the bubble's gonna burst on them at some point. They can't keep winning the games this way. I just don't see it. And Kelsey says he's healthy, but that's a lower ankle, maybe a foot sprain. It looked pretty bad. He kind of dropped. There were a lot of people thinking that it was a Liz Frank injury, but he did come back and for a touchdown. But
Don't you
will he
say
play?
that.
What's that?
Don't you say that.
Well,
Liz
I
Frank.
mean, will he come back? Short week this week. You might not need him, or they might not need him this week. So but they've done just enough to stay at 5. So
All right. So
it's very fluid.
three quick questions. Who's number 6?
Buffalo.
I agree with you. I agree with Buffalo. Second quick rapid fire question. Is anyone in the NFC South any good?
I think Tampa's probably at the top of that chart, but beyond that division, no. I don't think Baker Mayfield can withstand an entire season. But they've got an okay defense, so that might carry them. But beyond that division, no.
And 3, who's the worst team in the NFL?
New England.
I agree.
New England, and it's crazy to say.
In a game where the objective is to score points, they've only scored 55 points in 5 games.
Yeah, and they've given up 131. So it's a 76-point differential compared to the Lions. We'll use as a reference. 148 points for, 107 against. They're a net 41. So.
Yeah, the second worst, the Giants are 62 points for and 153 against for negative 91. I think the Giants would take the Patriots to the woodshed.
I do too, because when Kayvon Thibodeau wants to play football, he's good at it. It's just you don't know where his headspace is. Prior to last Thursday, I would have said the Bears were in that mix, but they decided to play NFL football, and it showed. Will that continue with the Bears? I don't see that happening, but which ironically they played a hell of a defense in the Commanders, and they hadn't really given up many points, but they sure did.
Sometimes games just get away from you.
Yeah, they do. Talk about games getting away from people. The postseason has started, and man. Houston took it to Minnesota today to take a 2-1 commanding lead. And as we speak, the Texas Rangers are up on the Orioles. The feel-good story of the MLB season, they're up 6-0 in game 3, 6-1, middle of 5, elimination game for the Orioles. In the National League, you have the Dodgers absolutely tanking the first 2 games at home against the young and just energetic Arizona Diamondbacks. That's a fun team. They've got good pitching. They steal bases. They play good, fundamentally sound baseball. And the series I want to focus on tonight, Atlanta. And coming into yesterday's game, the top 4 teams in baseball, 2 of which were already eliminated, and the other 2, Atlanta and the Dodgers, were at risk for elimination. The Dodgers saved the series with a big 2-run home run late in the game, and in the 9th, huge double play from Harris Jr., goes up, jumps off the wall, and is a relay to get Bryce Harper to double him up to end the game. Saves their series. Now this flips over, now goes to Philadelphia for games 3 and 4 starting tomorrow. Man, it was scary up until probably that 6th inning down there in Atlanta. Those fans were pretty nervous. What's your take on Atlanta? Is it an overhyped team, or is this a team that just didn't feel a whole lot of pressure late in the season?
As people are listening, I live in Chattanooga, Tennessee, so just a cool 1 hour and 40 minutes north of Atlanta's stadium. So we are deep in the heart of Braves country. This was a oh my gosh game, and the Braves have been the best team all year long. They weren't hitting in this series. They just couldn't break through. if this team goes on to do what they should do, this is going to be the moment, almost like the Tuck Rule, or just this event that changed the trajectory of this team. With that being said, anyone who is a child of the '90s remembers the Braves pseudo dynasty where they were always the best team and never won.
One World Series.
And the Braves have been they have more playoff division wins of anyone in history, and 2 World Series. And so this is a city, a region, a fan base that has been heartbroken many of times, and it was looking like it was going to happen again. Down 4-0. I'm switching back and forth between the Braves game, Monday Night Football, and then I find myself locked in on the Braves. I'm like, oh, they could do it. They could do it. And then
Darno homers in the 7th, 2-run bomb.
And then that ball gets hit. Harris catches it miraculously, and then throws it back. And the announcers seeing what we can't see from the camera angles. As soon as he throws, he's like, it's over. Just a great call by the announcer. And what excitement. And these the Orioles may be getting bounced, the Dodgers on the ropes. Looks like the Astros have taken command now. I can't wait for the game tomorrow at 5:07 on TBS. Braves Phillies. I'm invested, and I'm not the biggest baseball fan as we've known, and I'm not even a huge playoff baseball fan, but that was one of those moments where I couldn't put the remote down, and I was screaming at the TV. It was just an awesome game, and a double play from center field to shortstop to first base. Like what a random way to end the game.
Yeah, I mean it was incredible, and I'll put it up here. But here's the play. I mean, we're talking 9th inning, runner on first, Bryce Harper, and Harris Jr. in his second year, just an incredible play to make the catch. And the relay, the throw right here, absolute laser to seal the win. And that is the type of play following what was a go-ahead home run by Austin Riley.
Look at that winning percentage.
I mean, right there. They
were the win probability
in the 6th inning. I mean, they had a 50%, and it got up the Phillies up to a 90%, and then it's just incredible turn of events in Atlanta, and that is where's my cursor? Doesn't want to work, but.
And I'll say this: the only time in my entire that I can remember, my entire sporting life, is the only other time I've had something similar to that from the team I was rooting for to be on the brink of badness and to win was the back-to-back Hail Marys in, I think, 2016 of Georgia and Tennessee, where Josh Dobbs threw a Hail Mary at the end to win it. Usually I'm always on the losing side of these big dramatic events.
Yeah, but like I said, that's the type of play that can kind of spark a run. But they're going back to Philly, and Philly has probably played the best baseball the last month.
Yeah,
and they're going to Philly. And those fans are crazy. They got to face Aaron Nola. They haven't announced a starter for Atlanta. But this doesn't get any easier for Atlanta. If there's a team that's built to win, it's definitely the Braves. So I think they can do it. They just need one, and this series goes back to Atlanta for Game 5, and that would be a tall task. So I think this thing goes 5, and I really think that Atlanta can get it done. But man, this is going to be a tall task, and if they get through this round, then.
Tom, so you're more of a baseball fan than me. Uh, does baseball need to look at the playoffs and reseed like almost every other sport does?
As far as what goes.
Like as far as so if there's an upset in the wild card, so like in football,
Oh,
the
they
lower seed,
reseed.
yeah. So
Mm,
baseball brackets more like March Madness does.
well, I mean, I think it's right. I think it's set up right. Because you want, I mean, given the option to watch the Braves and Phillies over, Texas and Baltimore, I mean, I'm gonna
But you
watch
because
Braves Phillies.
you have Braves Phillies divisional rivals, Dodgers Diamondbacks divisional rivals.
Yeah,
Would it be better if you switched up a little bit? So Diamondbacks, Braves, Phillies, Dodgers.
maybe, maybe, but I mean, I love the wild card aspect of it, the best of three. Um, you in baseball is the ultimate. How are you playing at the right time? And I
Yeah.
think when you go in hot, like Arizona started hot, fizzled out, ended hot, they're up to nothing. Texas started hot, fizzled out, finished on a run. They were playing uh, playoff baseball probably the last month of the season between them and Houston, which they got a little greedy and lost the division at the last second from last game of the season to Houston. But they finished the season hot. They're going to eliminate Baltimore this
I,
tonight. So
I will say so. I've been into this postseason more than I have recently in the
well, good.
last decade or so, and I have been persuaded. Now, I haven't been convinced, but I have at least been open uh, to the argument because what baseball's doing this year is what I've always said, like try to take breaks and don't play, try to avoid football.
Hmm.
Like so they've taken a break and letting teams they got reset their lineups and reset their pitching rotations. And I do get it. I do get the point where hey, this is an everyday sport. It needs to be played every day, so
Sure.
you can't reset and get an advantage.
Mm-mm.
So persuaded, yes. Still they should avoid football for TV, but I'm starting to get it.
It's it's never going to be eclipse football. But one thing about the playoffs in baseball, they're fast. You don't
Yeah.
have game days off in between. Although the Diamondbacks and Dodgers had a game off between game 1 and 2, which is very unusual. Normally, those series are bang bang, day off, travel, bang bang, travel, and they go the whole playoff is a month, uh, basically a month in like a weekend. So it's fast and it's furious and it's hard to predict. And this playoff run is no different. It's been exciting. If you're a baseball fan, and don't forget the rules changes are in effect with the pitch clock and whatnot, which make the game faster. And the avid fan, uh, or the fans that wouldn't normally sit down to watch a game because it's time consuming. This is already in the sixth inning. This is
Oh,
exciting. So,
the pitch clock is the best thing because I go to minor league baseball all the time. It's
mhm,
been in the minor leagues for 5 years or so
right,
now. It's
right.
a game change. I mean, it just makes all the difference in the world.
Yep, yep. And it's attendance is up, TV viewing is up. It's worked. It's been a huge success. So Manfred's done a really good job implementing that. So
All they need now is Taylor Swift to
sure.
start dating a Brave, and then
I was waiting for you to say a shortened season. Which I think 150 is a good
yes.
number. 12 less than where they're at now. If they could get a jump start on the playoffs, maybe 2 weeks ahead of time, I think that would be really good. Not to mention for some of the cold weather cities playing in mid October, or in 2006 when the Tigers made their run. Um, it was like 40, upper high 30s, low 40s, and as a fan, that is not fun to watch. But Moving on to another sport here that dropped the puck tonight. The NHL, baby, it's back. No, we don't talk hockey a whole lot around here, but we will tonight, and I think we will as far as the season goes. So the puck dropped tonight with the Predators losing to Tampa Bay 5-3, and the Blackhawks are currently down to the Penguins 2-1. The debut of Connor Bedard, the 18-year-old phenom, unbelievable player. They're calling him the next greatest thing, which so far in the preseason he's kind of shown that might be the case. But you're a Predator fan. You go to a lot of games. We went to a game at the end of the last season, which was so much fun. I hope we can do that again. And as everyone knows, Detroit is hockey town, although they have not portrayed that in the last 4 years, missing the playoffs. So actually, I think it's longer than that. I think it's 5 years now. But what is your take on the Predators? What is your expectations? They made some good pickups this year. It's Barry Trotz is the GM, the first coach of the franchise is now the GM, and the player that got the first goal in franchise history is now the head coach. So what are your expectations? Obviously, slow start to the season, but it's a long season.
Yeah, and I mean the Predators, since they've been in Nashville, they have been a huge success. They have made the playoffs much more than they have missed the playoffs. We play in the Western Conference, which is a little odd to be in Nashville, but such is
Tell me
life.
about it. We were in the
Yeah,
Western for years with the Red Wings.
yeah, and so, but this is the post Pekka Rinne version of the Predators, who was the only goalie we had, or maybe we had one more, but it was his team, and so little change. Yeah, Trotz coming back, who had a successful run in Nashville, never got over the top. Finally did in Washington. We were all happy to see him get the trophy, but the cup, I should say. But it is, as far as expectations go for Nashville teams. The Predators have always been up there. We made the Stanley Cup and the final in 2017, which it's Tom, you were there on a random night. Bridgestone is electric. It's packed.
The second from last game of the season.
Yeah, we're out of the playoffs. It's electric. It's packed. Everyone. It's an event in Nashville. So the hockey's never been a second place to the event though, and so the fans are great, and so yeah, I mean we expect a competitor. I know we're in a little bit of rebuild mode, but yeah, I mean I would think probably that 6th to 8th seed range this year, and then work back to rebuild. But yeah, hoping to see a playoff team.
They just missed the playoffs last year. I think they missed by a game or two, a couple points.
They got eliminated right before we went to the game.
Right, yeah, it was. I think it was the game prior to that they got eliminated. But I like what Trotz has done. They went up to Toronto and got Luke Schenn and Ryan O'Reilly. They bring in a veteran in Tyson Barrie on a 1-year contract. So they've got a lot of young guys too. So you're mixing in a lot of young talent with a lot of veteran leadership. Obviously, they got Roman Josi and UC Soros, their netminders. So I think there's possibilities. The West is a tough division. The Knights in Tampa, so they're going to have a hill to climb, but they're aggressive. They're fast, and I like Ryan McDonough, he's come over from Tampa Bay last year. He's a winner. And that's the thing. Ryan O'Reilly won a cup with the Blues. So you have guys in that locker room that have won cups, which will work wonders with some of these young guys. And I see good things. on the horizon for Nashville. I rep Nashville in the Speakeasy. I love them. They were my team of choice when the Wings decided to stop making playoff runs. So I got behind them in 2017. I was at a playoff game in 2018, and I don't think there's a better atmosphere in all of sports, in my opinion. Anything I've been to. So Predator hockey is awesome. I love it. But then my Red Wings, Steve Yzerman's going in on his, I believe it's his 4th year as the general manager with the team. They showed signs of life last year. They made a nice improvement, fell two games under the 500 mark, but they made drastic improvements from the year before. They bring in Andrew Kopp. They bring in a local kid, Alex DeBrincat, who made his name with Chicago and then was up there in Ottawa. So they bring him back home. And they got a good mix. They're not there yet, but I think they're good enough right now. I do see them squeaking into a wild card run. This team is hungry for some Red Wings hockey, and with the way the Lions have played, it would be nothing better to see the Pizza Palace that down there in Detroit filled like it used to be all the time at Joe Louis. But they got the right coach. I think they're headed in the right direction. So we'll see. They call it the Iser plan around here. There's some fans that aren't believing it, but I think he was kind of dealt with a lot of bad contracts, and now he's weeding that out, and he's bringing in the pieces to work for now. But time will tell.
Looks like Red Wings and Predators are both same odds to win the Cup. Is what I'm looking on Vegas Insider.
Well, I mean, that's a bit of a stretch.
Yes,
I would love to sniff the playoffs at this point.
I'm just saying what we want is what we're expecting.
Right. They play in a tough division. They play it in the Atlantic division with Tampa, Toronto, and Florida, which they had a nice run last year. The East is pretty stacked. You got Boston, who broke the record last year, wins, got eliminated in the first round.
The question is, what are these warm weather teams doing winning all these cups?
Well, you get a lot of experienced general managers that go down there and they know how to build teams.
Yeah,
and
go to semi-retire.
Exactly. And you get a fan base. You get a fan base excited. Look at Vegas. I mean, Vegas, from the jump, they win a cup in their 3rd year of existence. I mean, it was a sellout day one, and it has been ever since.
As someone who frequents Vegas, the Golden Knights, they're bigger than the Raiders there. Like, they love them.
It's the real deal there. And obviously they win the cup last year, dominating fashion. So, and they'll be favored pretty much to do it again this year because I don't think they lost a whole lot. But hockey's back. It's a long season. Clearly, football is king, and we will focus our attention on that. But we will sprinkle in some hockey every now and again, especially as the playoffs near come next June. Springs. Yeah. But the playoff, to me personally, that there's nothing better than playoff hockey. That in all the sports, playoff hockey is the most exciting, in my opinion. Hardest trophy to win. I think the Stanley Cup is the hardest trophy to win because it's a 2-month grind from start of the playoffs to the end of the cup. It's 2 months, and you get past that, you're proven to be the winner. So, all right, buddy, you know what time it is.
It's time for Bet Your Nuts.
That's right. It is Bet Your Nuts time, and we're going to do a mixed nuts tonight. We're going to mix in college and pro. So get your betting slips ready, folks. But as a reminder, last week, I didn't do too good.
Oh,
I didn't do too good, ladies and gentlemen. 5-1 in the NFL, 1-5 in college. Brandon was the leader of the pack, very consistent, 4-2 both
apparently you
platforms.
can't do math. Brandon and I tied.
Well, I mean, he's consistent 4-2 both ways. Yes,
Okay.
you did great in the NFL and 500 the NCAA, and Raj was 2-4 and 3-3. So subpar performance in college from yours truly, but let's hope to improve on that this week. And we're going to start down in Columbia, South Carolina, which I don't know why it won't pop on the screen. There we go. The Gators, talk about a roller coaster team, heading in to play the Gamecocks of South Carolina. Carolina's given 2 in this game. Who do you like, Robbie?
Oh man. Give me Carolina -2. I don't like it though. Don't like it.
Yeah, I like Carolina here. Florida just they win big against Tennessee and then kind of shoot themselves against Kentucky. So I like the Gamecocks in that one. Maybe the boring bowl of the Big Ten. We got the Hawkeyes going into Camp Randall to face Wisconsin. This is a big number at the moment. They're given 10. Iowa plays a stingy defense. I don't know if Wisconsin has enough offensively to cover that spread. So I'm gonna go Iowa to cover in this game. Who do you got?
Oh, this is scary. I like the same thing. I just Kurt Ferentz he just has these games where he keeps them close. It's gonna be an ugly, low scoring game. Give me the points in this one.
Okay. Heading down to the Bayou where Coach Kelly's going to be hosting his family. Giving up 11 to the Tigers of Auburn. The Fighting Peyton Thorns, formerly of the Michigan State Spartans. There's a lot. That's a big number. I'm guessing because it is a home game and Auburn has been very inconsistent. Who do you like in this one?
That's a rivalry game. That is way too many points for my liking. Give me Auburn. Though again, not confident, but give me Auburn
to cover. I think LSU wins this one. I think 11. I think a 2 touchdown game is fitting, even though that number is kind of high.
So you took LSU?
I'm going to take LSU in this one. Home
it is
game.
A night game. It's a night game. So
yeah, Death Valley down there, tough place to play at night. So give me the Tigers. Give me the Tigers down there to Bayou. Corvallis is where we're heading next. The Bruins going up against the Beavers. DJU played a pretty good game last week, given 4 points to the Bruins. I like Oregon State here. I like what they did against Utah. They pretty much dominated that game last week. So I think this number is about right. Give me the Beavers to win. Robbie?
Oregon State was my preseason pick to win the Pac-12. I still believe in them. It's a tough matchup. They got it in Corvallis. Corvallis late at night, not easy to win at. I agree. I like Oregon State.
Moving on to where you'll be this Saturday. Good old Knoxville, Rocky Top, Tennessee. Got the Aggies going in to face the Volunteers. And this number intrigues me. I think this number's low. I really do. I thought this number was going to be upwards of a touchdown. I'm a bit surprised. So I'm curious to hear what you have to say. What do you like in this one?
So I think the spread's about right. I think this is going to be a turnover game. Whoever turns the ball over the least wins. Um, Ironically, back in 2016, I was at A&M. It was a 6 overtime game, I think it was. Probably the longest football game I've ever been to. Um, and that started Butch Jones's downfall and ultimately firing. A loss on the road in A&M. I wonder if this isn't the same kind of parallel thing. I think Tennessee wins, covers, and if this doesn't start to get people talking about Jimbo.
Yeah, Lee or Nalen's going to be
Yeah, they're doing checker.
loud.
Yes.
They're going to be loud. A&M loses last week, or was it last week? Let's see.
Alabama.
Yeah, they lose last week to Alabama, which I thought that they were going to win. I picked A&M to win. Very disappointing. Offensive just wasn't there. I tend to agree with you on this one. Milton has not looked good, as I've highlighted, and we've all spoke about time and time again. But this game's at home, and Tennessee plays different at home. Ask the Crimson Tide of Alabama last year. So I like Tennessee in this one. 3:30 kick. Those fans are going to be rabid down there. 107,000 in Neyland Stadium, including you being there. I look forward to some pictures of that one. So give me the Volunteers to take on the Jimbo Fishers. And yes, I do believe this could be the end of Jimbo Fisher as a head coach in college football. Moving on to South Bend, Indiana, where yours truly and Raj Mehta will be live. Reckless speculation on the road from the tailgate. This is going to be fun. I cannot wait to get down there for this game. You got Notre Dame, their biggest rivalry, going up against SC. 3-point favorite. This might be the biggest head scratcher of the week. Robbie, what do you think in this one?
Yeah, you know my thoughts about USC or Notre Dame. They are overrated. I don't think the home field crowd's all that intimidating necessarily.
Very quiet. Very quiet there.
Yeah, so I think Caleb Williams has a field day. I do think it gets close if this was because all USC games get close. If this was -3 on USC, I may take Notre Dame in a 1 or 2 point game. But for me, this is a no-brainer. Take the most talent, the better coach team, even if they're on the road.
Yeah, Notre Dame offensively has shown the last 3 to 4 weeks that they're just not there for whatever reason it is, unless they figure out their run game, and Estime has a hell of a game, which is possible because USC's defense is Swiss cheese. Raj will tell you it's very subpar. I do think this is going to be a pretty high scoring game. Caleb Williams, I don't see where he doesn't throw for 4 touchdowns and 300 yards in this game. So USC, I think double digits. I think 10 is probably right around where this game will be.
Before we move on, isn't this USC team just what Lincoln Riley had at Oklahoma? Like whenever they run into a good defensive team, they're going to get beat.
Maybe. If the freshman returner is not on the field, which Raj has highlighted, he's one hell of a player. He's a spark plug for that offense, kick returner and receiver. If he's not on the field, I think Notre Dame might have a chance, but all indications are he's going to play. But rivalry game. I think Raj said it's the anniversary of the Bush push, so I can't wait for that one. And it'd be really fun to do a pregame show with Raj. So look forward for that coming up this Saturday. information to come, details to come. Moving on to the NFL. The NFL, the King, going into Nashville, Tennessee, where Robbie probably will have to give away his tickets.
No, this is in London.
Oh, it is in London. That's right. My bad.
Yeah.
JP chiming in, USC sucks. I don't disagree, but I do think this week they do take out Notre Dame. But yes, you're right. We're going to London for another early Sunday morning kick. Robbie, it's your team. It's a roller coaster. What are we going to see this week?
Because we saw bad Titans this week, I expect the Titans to not only cover but win money line. Why? How? No idea, but it's going to be, this is my starred money line special.
So you're going Titans.
Yes, I had no faith in them, but they're just Jekyll and Hyde.
4.5. I don't know who the Ravens are. They definitely looked subpar last week against Pittsburgh, albeit Pittsburgh has a really good defense, and anytime you have TJ Watt on the field, that's going to bode well for you. But Lamar has not been impressive. Odell Beckham's been hurt. Shocker there. So he hasn't really seen much of the football field. Zay Flowers has been really the one constant on that offensive side. But man, this is a neutral field. It's a tough one. This is a tough game. I think Baltimore comes back and squeaks out. 4.5's tough. Man, give me Tennessee to cover here. 4.5. I think it comes down to a field goal at the end of the game. Maybe a 61-yarder off the crossbar to win it like they did in Detroit a couple years ago. So give me Tennessee to cover. The team that just spent 2 weeks in London comes home to play the Minshew Mania Indianapolis Colts, given 4.5 points, Jacksonville. I think Jacksonville has found their stride. They went to London 1-3, and now they're, 1-2, and they come back from London 3-2. I think they found their stride. Like I said, I think Doug Peterson is a hell of a coach. Exactly what Trevor Lawrence needs. They got great running production last week from Etienne, and I see it continuing. Give me Jacksonville in this game.
Oh, okay. We are differing on this one. I think the reverse London effect takes its course, and I think they go back. I do think Jags win. I think Minshew, though, keeps it close. God, this division is terrible. But give me the Colts with the points.
Cover. Okay. What could turn out to be one of the better games this weekend? Cincinnati, as we stated earlier, big kind of recovery game last week in Arizona. And Seattle has been kind of the surprise of the season thus far. After a really bad start, losing at home to the Rams in Week 1, they've been good. They've been one of the better teams in football. This is a big test. I think I think the Bengals may have figured things out. What do you think about this game?
I think Seattle is sneaky good, and I think that the Bengals have no fear in their own division. I'm going to take Seattle with the points.
Okay. And I will go Cincinnati. I think 3 is about right. This game, low scoring. I could see it being like a 24-21, type of scenario, a 2017. Cincinnati has a better kicker, and that could come into effect in this game. So give me the Bengals. Heading down to Tampa, where my one pride, Detroit Lions, face the Fighting Baker Mayfields of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This game was flexed from a 1 p.m. kick to a 4 o'clock kick, which is crazy that a Lions team would get flexed, but that shows you where we're at right now. I'll let you go first on this one. Who do you like?
This is scary for me because this to me is the easiest line of the weekend, which makes me wonder. Tampa has scored 84 points this whole season. Detroit's at 148. Tampa's got a good defense. Detroit's got a better offense. I take offense over defense in this NFL. Detroit's playing with confidence. Tampa's kind of staying alive. It scares me, though. It scares me so much that I'm taking Tampa because I don't understand this line.
Ooh. That's reckless. Woo.
Yes,
speculative.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Again, Robbie is representing the name of this program to a T tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I said earlier, I think the Lions are a better road team right now than they are a home team. Going into Kansas City and win, go to Green Bay, which we're referring to as Lion Bow now in this neck of the woods, and dominate. I think this is Lions all the way. Each week, they've kind of opened up the playbook a little bit more. Ben Johnson comes up with a play, the triple reverse toss touchdown to Laporta, which the San Francisco 49ers did the same exact play later on Sunday night, and George Kittle admitted as much. They saw the play. He immediately went to the coach and said, hey, we have that in the repertoire. We need to pull it out, and they did. So I think this is a game where Baker Mayfield is on his horse a lot of the game. Tampa Bay doesn't have much of a run game. I like the Lions. I like the Lions by a touchdown here. The cornbread is hot. The Kool-Aid is Honolulu blue and silver and cold. I'm all about it. So give me the Lions. Heading just south to where you're at right now, the Mercedes-Benz Dome, where the Commanders will take on the Falcons. Here's two teams that we don't even know who they are. Very intriguing matchup here. This might as well be a pick'em as far as I'm concerned. And frankly, I think by the time the game starts, it might be a pick'em. The Falcons looked pretty good last week. They put the offense together. Ritter looked good. Bijan had a nice game. I like the Falcons here. I don't think Washington can put up the scoring that Atlanta can. This game's at home, albeit Atlanta doesn't really have much of a home field advantage. But I think they have enough to get it done. Give me the Falcons.
Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Mercedes-Benz Dome is in New Orleans. The stadium is in Atlanta.
Sorry.
In my opinion, the nicest stadium, nicest sports complex that I've ever been to.
Cheapest concessions too.
Yes. Somehow Atlanta taxpayers loves their sports, but I agree with you, Tom. This is a tough game. I don't know anything. I mean, I don't know what real teams are between these two. I do think that Atlanta's starting to play with its weapons more, and Atlanta is essentially a home dog. We get the points taken into it. So I'm going Atlanta also. I think Atlanta wins here. Robinson's starting to take off. They're starting to finally find Pitts. And so, yeah, Ritter's playing better at home. I agree with you. Not a great home venue because people are more in the Delta Sky Club or the Delta Club than they are in the field. But, yes.
Heading out to SoFi for Sunday night. Monday Night Football, I believe. The Cowboys, who just got embarrassed in San Francisco, going into the Chargers. Dallas is giving 2 points, and this is another head scratcher for me. Obviously, the Chargers will not have home field advantage on their home field, so I think that is coming to play here. But I think that the Cowboys may have been a little exposed here. What do you think?
Yeah. So as unbiased as I can possibly be, the team that I despise the most in professional sports is the Chargers. And so I have a long history with them that I just don't like them. Even though I lived in San Diego for 5 years, I rooted for them to lose every single weekend. But I agree with you. It's weird that the Cowboys are getting 2 in SoFi. Yes, it's going to be a road game for the Chargers. I'm going to San Diego, LA over Thanksgiving. I try to get people to go to a Chargers game. They're like, nah, we're good. So I may go up to the stadium by myself. So I want to see it. That's a long way of saying I don't trust Dallas either, though. I don't trust the Chargers. Can we get over under on this? Dallas off of a beat down. This is a really coin toss.
So the over-under per DraftKings is 50.5 for this game.
I'll just go Chargers because I guess I like to lose money. But over 50.5, I will go over. Just side note.
Oh yeah. Yeah. There's always a couple games in the season where the Cowboys look invincible. They did get exposed last week against San Francisco, but they're going into a place where, like we said, they're going to have the advantage with the crowd. The Chargers have no defense whatsoever. Irregardless to having Justin Herbert, who is a hell of a quarterback, they have a hell of an offense on that side. He's got a finger issue on his throwing hand where it got caught in a face mask the weekend prior. So I don't know how healthy his hand's going to be. And I really do think that is coming into play in this one. 100% go with the over. I think this is a shootout because neither team have a decent secondary. I'll go back to what I've said all along. Micah Parsons is probably one of the top 3 players in the world right now. And he's looking for revenge after last week's game. Give me the Cowboys in this one. Last-second field goal to win. Going to be an offensive display, but I think the Cowboys have a little bit better on defense, which is really crazy to say. Flipping the switch to 3 weeks ago, they had the most obscene defense, but they lose Trayvon Diggs with an ACL for the season, and it's kind of gone down ever since. But going to be interesting to find out, to kind of watch how this thing plays out. Look back for next week to see how good or bad we did. So moving on to final words. It's a short one tonight, just you and I. So, Robbie, what do you got?
Well, I'll say this, and it's been as I said in the beginning, it's been a rough couple of weeks for me. Take time. I I've started like, hey, write out 1 month, like, hey, this is a friend group or a couple or a friend or something that you want to have happy hour with or dinner with or just a phone conversation with. Like, just take time. I know we're all busy and we all have so many commitments, but take time to reach out to people that are close to you. Um, Tom, Brandon, and Raj are lucky. We talk on Mondays. We have the show on Tuesdays. We text throughout the week about different things, but not everybody has that.
Yeah.
And so it's easy to say, oh, yeah, I'll, like, I had my class reunion, followed by tragedy followed by my class reunion. It's like, yeah, we'll hang out more. Well, we're actually taking time to hang out more and to
Yeah.
plan things and to literally put it on the calendar and let's stick to it. And so they're my final words this week. And just really uh do, like, literally take time to hang out and, like,
Follow through.
yeah, like Tom has been in Tennessee a couple times. We're gonna come up to Michigan. We're going to do it and not just say it. And so that's my final words.
I like it. I like it. And my final words are similar to what you kind of reflected. There's a lot going on in the world today, as we all know. The headlines, what's going on in Israel between the Israelis and the Palestinians, and it's just not to really get too politicized into that, but it makes you really realize what we do have here in this country. Are we divided? Yes. Are there threats? Sure. But I don't think any of us feel frightened or afraid to the level of those 250 young lives that were wasted at a music festival when the Hamas militants paraglided in and started picking them off and kidnapping them. And it's just a horrific scene. And for me, who my wife and I like to go to festivals, this one really hits hard because um, at any given moment, anything could happen, and we're vulnerable to it. And to see what those young people went through, and 1 minute you're dancing and having a great time, and the next minute you're dead, and it just makes you think about the importance of life. And I've said it before: this is a sports show, but at the end of the day, we're human beings, and there's a lot more to this world. There's a lot more to society than just sports. We are blessed to have the opportunity to speak sports and have that camaraderie between the four of us. But there's a lot of other people out there that it's not that simple. Just going to work, just living is a challenge over there. So take a minute and look at your life and from somebody else's vantage point, and realize that things are pretty good over here in comparison. I'm going through a rough patch in my career. There's a lot of question marks, but when I stop and think about where I'm at compared to where these people on the other side of the world are, I wouldn't trade it for the world. So um, just appreciate what you have, and absolutely agree with Robbie. Reach out. If there's somebody that you haven't talked to in a while, just do it. If you've been on the fence and you're worried about how they might react, who cares? Just do it, because at the end of the day, um, it matters. Whether you might think it doesn't or not, but it does matter. So um, life is what you make of it, and it's very fragile and could be gone in a heartbeat. So don't take advantage or don't take for granted opportunities that you have, because they might be gone. So I love it. Robbie, I love how you challenge me to be a better human being, and Raj and Brandon do the same thing. I think that's what makes this show very unique. And I always look forward to Tuesday nights where we can send this out to the masses. So
Yeah.
thanks, buddy. I appreciate what you give, and who you make us all better.
Well, the feeling is mutual. I can assure you that.
Love it. So, again, a quick reminder: go like, follow, subscribe. It really does help us out. It helps get the message out. And like I mentioned a second ago, we are a sports show, but we are human beings, and we do like to talk about other things other than sports. And this being National Mental Health Day, it is a good reminder what we just spoke about in our final words. So kind of live that mantra if you can. I think you'll be blessed in many ways if you do so.
Yeah. Well, and a fun little game. Go to your contacts in your phone, scroll through, see who you haven't talked to in a while, send them a text message. How are you? What are you up to these days?
Yep.
And you'd be amazed how many people that will connect with.
Yeah, I like it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it tomorrow. I know I haven't spoke to my brother in about a month. I'm going to do that. I'm going to send him a text because we've been on rocky grounds, but there's always time to fix those relationships. So I love it. Great show, Robbie. Again, we look forward to having Raj and Brandon back next week. And don't look out for reckless speculation from South Bend. Raj and I, whether Raj shows up or not, it's to be determined. But I'm going to jump on, and I'll be broadcasting a little tidbit from there. So look out for that. But for Robbie Davis, I am Tom Sloan.
I'll try to figure out how to do some stuff on A&M weekend. I'll try to figure out the phone stuff.
That will be wonderful. We'll look out for that.
One day.
Thanks a lot, guys. We'll look forward to seeing you here next week.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Reckless Speculation. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube searching Reckless Speculation. Catch us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. We look forward to catching you right here next week with another exciting episode of Reckless Speculation.